Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
So welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live, show number 23. We're your hosts, Dave,
Jason,
and Vialet.
Our guest today is Shane Sale. Shane is a gifted healer. He started out as a massage therapist 22 years ago. Over the years, his intuitive abilities became clear. His whole practice changed in 2016, owning all of his intuitive abilities for the first time. In 2016, he became a medical intuitive. In 2018, he deepened his medical intuition skills by learning to work with the DNA. Shane and Spirit work with people to help heal genetic diseases, broken bones, reactivate DNA, clear beliefs that no longer are serving you. Shane continues to integrate all of his intuitive bodywork and teaching skills in his practice. He currently offers classes on medical intuition, DNA practitioner training, and developing your intuition. So, welcome Shane. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dave, and everybody here. I appreciate it.
Oh, we'd love to have you. I thought this would be a very interesting topic for our community and those listening out there. Medical intuition and wrapped around DNA and all that. I think it will be really fascinating. Share with us a little bit about your spiritual journey, because I always find that very fascinating, how we move into certain areas of our life and how spirit guides us along the way.
I laugh because it is truly a journey, and I'm one of those individuals that when I started out, I didn't know what a chiropractor was. I knew what a doctor was. I knew what your mainstream medicine was, but was not exposed to any of this growing up. And my journey literally led me to understanding each marker in my life was a benchmarker in where I was becoming. So there were several benchmarks along the way that I felt pulled and tugged. I couldn't explain things. One was an accident I was in, it was November this time in 2001. I was driving from Wyoming to Rock Springs, Wyoming to Utah. I had a patch of ice on I-80. I did 360s going around and around and around. I didn't flip my truck. I went out into the ditch, and all I remember is feeling a presence on my shoulder holding me back. So it's things like that have happened early on that helped me develop and understand that there's more to the world than what is actually there.
That's pretty awesome. So a presence just kind of holding you back in the vehicle. Very cool.
It was one of many, but yeah, that's early on. That's what I can relate it to.
Sounds kind of like you drove into a vortex and you just got caught up in the spin.
Hey, yes.
Did you see any old ladies riding by on bicycles?
No. All I saw was highway and dirt. That's all I remember seeing.
Pretty scary experience, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and that was one. And then I served in the Navy for a number of years. I was corporate America for
that
a
was
while.
a scary experience in itself.
Yeah, it was.
Both of those. You are well seasoned, sir.
Right. I think I went through the hard school of knocks to get to where I'm at here. But laughing aside, what occurred is I hit a point at the credit card bank I was working at. And I don't know how your journey was, but I remember sitting at my desk one day and I was sobbing. I was 26 years old. I'm a crying man sitting at my desk. And to this day, I'm looking back like going, what? If I had seen a doctor at that time, they probably would have put me on Prozac or antidepressants of some sort and would have sent me on my way. What happened is literally I made a list of what I was doing and where I was at. Another pivotal point in my career, and listing those both out, I realized where I was at and where I was going to be. They were in alignment. So I made a decision to enroll into massage school. So that was another flag point that it was my mental state of processing where I was going, but really I was being led by spirit. Looking back.
That's pretty cool to make a list on where you're at. I mean, how many people really take the time
So,
to do that, right?
if I can give one piece of advice to folks out there, when you ask and your heart's open and you really desire the answer, sit back and strap in because it's going to be a ride.
It's really true when we're really open to that. Sometimes
that
we're
was-
kind of not so open to that, but that's a big deal. I mean, how many people do you think have done their whole journey and they never ask that question and they're on the wrong road, right? Guided down the wrong path.
When you start asking questions about truth, chances are pretty good, with even a little bit of tenacity, that you're going to find out what that truth is. But you don't always like it.
Right, yeah. That's
You got to be prepared for that part of it and be open, like you said. If you're going to open your heart, you might not like what you find out.
that is so true. And I remember telling my CEO, boss of the company I was working with, because everywhere I've gone, I've always done very well, promoted. And I told him, I said, I can't remember his name, but I said, I'm going to go to massage school and I'm going to rub people. Is what I knew. This is a 47-year-old man, banker, Mormon country. He looks at me and he says, "You mean you want to rub naked people?" And I said, "I don't know, but yeah." So that
Clear out your desk.
it was about that fast. So they were very supportive, but they didn't understand, and I didn't understand. And so talking about your point there, it's like we don't know what we're hearing sometimes, but what I've learned from that is that we always should trust what we're getting. It may not make a lot of sense, but really trust it. So trusting that process led me going through the admissions process, which I walked out going, this is actually pretty professional. So I enrolled the next week and left the bank a week later.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I've always heard, I love the phrases, and I've seen it, Joseph Campbell and other people have used it too. And they said, sometimes you can climb to the top of the ladder in your field and find out the ladder's against the wrong building.
Ooh.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that in terms of following your passion. And these days, society is much more open for people to try different things and change careers rather than when I was a kid in the 60s, you started in a business, you stayed there till you retired. And you hoped you lived that long, and you hoped you collected some retirement, and end of story. And now it's, wow, I've done, I've been a dog catcher for 10 years. Enough of that stuff. I'm going to go do something else. And so it's great that when you discover it, and you discover it in time to recover and actually develop a whole new way of living. So that's great.
Again, I pinch myself every day because when I hear things like that, and I truly love what I do, but like all of us and all of our journeys, I've done a lot of jobs that I didn't care for, but I knew I needed to be there for the time that I was there for. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to explain that other than just knowing that.
That's so often the case, is that we realize after the fact that we were there for a reason. And especially those of us that have transitioned from like corporate America in some form or other, like for Vialet being an HR professional, and now she's running a community, and all of those skills and all of her teaching and all that stuff really rolls into what we, how we run the center and what we do every day. And for me, it's all the stuff I've learned in the many jobs that I apply for, sales and marketing and dealing with people and customers and service and all that stuff. So we get to a point where we find out that we're sort of a culmination of all the things we needed, even though we didn't know why. You've got a really powerful awareness in that place. It's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. I don't know what that's like to I don't compare, but I don't know what other people's journey's like. All I know is what mine's like. So when I share with other people, I'm like, really trust and follow what you're feeling or sensing and knowing. Whatever that looks like or shows up for you, I always say, listen, trust, and follow. That trust and follow sometimes is hard.
Well, it is, and that's as simple as somebody showing up for a class. They'll come in for a class that I hold, and they'll state, I don't know why I'm here. I just know I was guided to be here, and I'm trusting in that process. And I'm honoring them in that space, because how many times does that happen for all of us where we can't get out of our mind a class or going someplace or trying something, it keeps reminding us, hey, what about this? Hey, have you thought about this? And being able to say, okay, I'm just going to step in and trust. I have no idea why I'm doing this, but hey, here we go. We're going to go. And I think if more people did that, it would be amazing where their journey would lead them.
Well, taking your step back, if I put the ladder on the wall of the military and I was thinking of re-enlisting and retiring.
Career military.
That was me.
Yeah.
At that time, I just felt like I was getting a lot of resistance from those around me. My chief, my boss was not a very nice individual. My peers, I had a great time, but I remember thinking, I don't want to be like you. And again, I can say that mentally with my head, what I was thinking, what we all think sometimes. I don't know why I left the service, but I can say it was that. But looking back now to your point, it's like, no, I think there was a deeper reason as to why I didn't choose to re-enlist. That was certainly an option, but it didn't feel right at the time because I had so much resistance. The world was showing me that, I didn't want to be like that guy. He was really a mean individual.
Wow. Well, I know your journey took you even beyond just going to massage school, because you ended up teaching.
Yes, yeah. Well, and so again, I kind of laugh. I had a gal ask me the other day, she was like, so you're medical intuitive? I said, yes. Well, how long have you been practicing? Well, I said, a few years. She's like, oh, she walked away from me. I thought that was weird. My friend, who was working with me at the time, she was like, wait, come back. And she'd known me for like 15 years when I first moved to Colorado. She was like, Shane, you've been doing this for such a long time. You're much more than just 3 or 4 years. The lady sat down with me. We did a reading with her and a medical intuitive session with her, and she left, and she was very impressed. Why I bring that up is because the journey to get to that point is that all of our lives, throughout our entire lifetime here, has been teaching us those things. And looking back, it's easy to reflect on that, but to realize that journey is way more than a few years. So after massage school, when I went in, I was one of those individuals, I laugh. Energy, if I didn't see it, touch it, taste it, feel it, grab onto it, it didn't exist. That was me. Going through massage school, I laughed because all of the subtle energy classes that we had, all the things that were like the lighter energy stuff, I was like, why am I wasting my money? I literally thought that way going through the whole program. So I say that because, again, I think the universe saw me as a challenge. They said, all right, you can think that way as long as you like, but we're going to help you change that around a little bit. So I got out of massage school, and again, the military background in corporate America taught me that you just don't hang a shingle up and expect business to follow. You have to work, you have to do things to get out there. The trend I noticed was that I was working for a hospice agency with the AIDS at that time was quite, HIV and AIDS was really a pandemic. It was pretty heightened, and I had a nurse client that got me involved with some working with HIV patients. A lot of fun. I found the massage was great, but also I started doing some energy work with her that I didn't know I was doing, which led me to the idea that my practice at the time slowed way down. In a 2-week span, my practice just stopped. I was like, this is weird. I called my friend up and I said, look, what's going on? And she said to me, well, I have this class coming up. It's on Healing Touch Level 1. I could use an organizer. Can you come? And I told her, I said, I'm a broke massage therapist. I don't have any money. She said, shut up and get here. I said, okay. So the universe works in weird ways. People show up in our lives. It's not always this light, fluffy stuff. It can be sometimes very direct.
You mean the angels aren't singing from the
right?
Lord?
Not all the time. No.
And pouring a bucket of gold coins over your head.
Wait, there's darkness?
Yes.
Subtleness to how we get guided?
You've got to do your work. You've got to do your work. You really got to do your work. And what that means to me is that when I went to that class, I said, okay, I'll show up. By just showing up, it was an admission to where I was going in my journey, right? So I show up. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday class. halfway through the class, I was realizing all of the hand placements, all of the things that we were doing, I was already doing in my practice unknowingly. Majority of them. So it was the craziest thing. I pulled my teacher aside halfway through, and I'm like, I've been doing this. And she says, yeah, you're intuitive. I said, no, I'm not.
Not me.
No way, right? But I'm like, huh. I got back into my office on Monday morning, and at that time we had voicemails. Machines, we had to hit play and record. Dave, you remember those ones, right?
Yes.
I don't know about you, Jason. Remember those?
Are you old enough to remember?
I'm not even tall enough to be on this ride, so I can see why you would question that.
But kidding aside, so the voicemail, I hit play, and a lot of my clients that had canceled and had not come in the previous, whatever, slowing down, I was booked up. So I was super excited, and I called my friend up, and I'm like, you're not going to believe this. And she paused. She says, your practice is filling up. How'd you know?
She's an intuitive too.
Yes. Yes. But here is
All these labels.
I know, right? The key to this was this. She said, she paused. She says, Shane, sometimes the universe slows your life down so you can take an opportunity to learn something that will help you. Oh. Got it. So that was really a pivotal piece in my journey as far as understanding that, yes, I don't know if I was intuitive or what do you want to call it. Things were happening I couldn't explain. I'm okay with this. I'm going to follow it. And that was 21 and a half years ago. So all my life, there's always been things that have happened similar to that now I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, no longer they need to really get my attention. It's more like subtle wind blowing. Oh, let's go this way. Let's go this way. I'm like, are you sure? Okay. No more big sticks, like to say.
That's always nice when you don't have to get hit over the head.
No, I prefer it.
You like that? Okay.
Just let me know what the heck is going on, please.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. I don't do subtle. Don't drop hints. Just tell me. It will be a lot easier on all of us if you just give me the truth right up front.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Whack. Yes. Okay. Please don't hit me in the head. So I've already had that. I don't want any more of that.
Well, this is like a pathway, and I always tell people, I consider my life now, I'm at 64, I've been involved with energy work since 83, even in parallel with my aerospace work. I can look back and I can see the stepping stones, but if you'd shown me that path in 1983, I would have run from the room screaming. It was just, no, there's just no flipping way that I'm going to be doing this work full-time, clearing entities out of people, all this kind of strange stuff, journeying to other parallel universes, speaking to entities. No.
That wasn't on your to-do list?
That wasn't on my list in 1983.
Yep.
So it's been a very interesting pathway, and a lot of times they give it to you incrementally in steps and doses you can take. Mm-hmm. You're not ready for the big slug of the whiskey, so to speak.
No. Like I say, I think I was a project with the universe. They were like, okay, let's just see.
Aren't we all?
I think we all are.
Yeah.
But I worry about, I'm always sending loving energy to those that have just kind of stagnant. They've just fell into a cycle and they just go through it because I'm like, I just can't do that. I want to move. Like Jason says, today I'm like, okay, I surrender. Just tell me what you want me to do and let's get this dance on. Let's do this thing. I don't need to have the hard knocks. Hey, I surrender. Mm-hmm. I'll give you whatever you want. Let's just make this happen. Because I find when we allow the universe to do that, our worlds become so much better. Because we don't have the thought process of, this is what I want to do. They have a whole better plan for us than we have for ourselves.
Yeah, and I love the phrase, we are co-creators. So we're co-creating our world, and it is a co-creation process. Now that co-part can be very hard, or it can be very easy, but it is a co-creating process. And I would prefer to have it much more easier.
Well, you make a valid point that's very important is that, yeah, we get the guidance, but we still have to take action.
Yes.
You have to do something. We live in a third dimensional environment that requires that you actually do something. You can decide in your head all day, but until you take action, you haven't made a choice.
Oh my gosh. Can we just tell it to every massage therapist out there right now? Like
They,
across the board.
they think their action is always the massage itself. That is action.
No, you're right. Yeah.
But it's easy to get caught in that, right? It's the other things you have to do that lead up to even being able to do that action. That's the part that's missing. I'm spiritual. I'm going to start a business. That's not a spiritual thing. That's a third dimensional thing. It takes action. It takes time.
And it takes work, for
It
those
does.
out there that go to a class, take a class, learn whatever they're learning, a healing modality, a job, whatever, and they're going to go rent a space somewhere, put their shingle out, and start their business, and the clients are just going to show up. It never works that way.
I've yet to see it happen. Yeah. There are maybe ways that it works easier. Like I notice in my world now, it's like a surrender. People find me. I don't know how they find me. They just show up. Opportunities show up. So that's part of doing your work, is just being open.
You've extended the tendrils.
Ooh, I
And
love
those
that.
tendrils are out there floating around, and people get a hold of them, and they follow that energy to you.
But if you don't extend them, that's your job.
Right.
That's your
You got to put it out there, and in multiple places. Laying one tendril is only going to get you the person that attaches to the other end of that.
I love that. I
Lay
love that.
30.
And you have to be ready and open, right?
Yes.
And you have to be careful when you get super busy that you don't say or think, I'm too busy, because the universe goes, really? Okay. And then it goes away for a little while because you said too busy.
If you want to know what too busy looks like, you might want to peek at Dave's calendar right now.
Because you have you not seen that where you're like, oh, I'm really tired, I could really do a day off, or hey, it's too much, or you're even thinking that.
Yes.
The universe goes, okay, it's too much for them, and pulls it away, and then you got to rebuild it again. So sometimes you have to say, you have to be very clear on what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, another concept I've learned over the years is the universe is not vague; it's literal. Mm-hmm. So if whatever you're thinking, you're creating, literally.
Yeah.
So it's.
I had a friend of mine call me one day, and she goes, the universe is not funny. And I said, why? She goes, I've been working and I kept saying the last 2 weeks, I just need a day off. I just need a day off. I just need a day off. She goes, I got a day off yesterday in the emergency room. I wasn't working.
We'll give you a break. Where do
Literally.
you want the break in your body?
Because this is not what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, and you raise a great point, particularly as I'm getting booked out more and more and doing more events, etc. I love that, and your phrasing comes at a great time. Just be careful that I don't say I'm too busy.
Well, you and Dave both, you're both getting really busy on your schedules. I know you had said that. Dave's saying that. It's just a reminder that we got to think about how we want to say, hey, I'd like a day off on the beach, or hey, I'd like to sit in a lounge chair in the sun, or hey, I'd like to have a day off for me to do something fun, or put something in there, or be done by 4 o'clock. So you just got to be I have learned, because I've saw people do that. Hey, I'm too busy. It's too overwhelming. I just need time. And I've watched, and they're like, what happened? Like, where did it go?
The tide went out.
What did that shift? Well, the universe is trying to support you in what you're asking for, and it does. It takes everything very literal. It doesn't gray or see any of that. It hears exactly what you're saying. So what we're thinking, what we're saying, we need to be careful, because we put it out there and it's going to bring it to us, right? We attract it.
I'm going to give a funny aside for the listeners, because one of the things that I find when I do my energy work and healing work on people is your subconscious, i.e. the universe, also through the subconscious, is listening. Don't use a phrase, that's a real pain in the ass.
Oh.
That's an invitation to get hemorrhoids. That's an invitation to get a broken tailbone. Your subconscious says, your wish is my command. You want a pain in the ass? I will give you one. And so avoid those statements that refer to your body, like pain in the neck, pain in the back.
Or you broke my heart.
Too much of a heavy load for me to carry. All those things.
Especially
Not
when you're
healthy.
tuned in, right?
Yes.
When you're in the middle of the abundance is really not the time to start those kind of statements. Because you are creating, you are right in the midst of it, you are at your peak, and your power is instantaneous.
Yes.
I would like clunk. Oh, didn't even have to finish it. There it is. It's handy, but you can't abuse the power. You have to be with it. Be in the flow. Be with it.
Yes, the universe can have quite a sense of humor with you. It can remind you where you are on the pecking order.
I am sure that the universe actually laughs out loud continuously because human beings do a lot of stupid stuff. We really do. I do my your share and your share, Shane.
I probably do all three of your shares.
You got it covered.
Sometimes you wonder if we're like in the Truman Show.
Right.
Yeah, and in the spiritual universe, you're saying, "Oh, everybody got your popcorn and your drinks. Let's see what happens today."
About right.
Yeah, he thinks all those people around him are real. They're just actors.
Dodging lights on your way to work. That's funny.
What I really appreciate, though, in my journey and what I bring to people about when I work with them is I help them understand that it is meant to be enjoyed as well. So they do have a sense of humor. Bringing a light to the heavy, etc., bringing the light to the shadow side. It really is.
Well, we're
it's a
supposed to
joyous
have
process.
this experience that's joyful and abundant. I mean, the fairies, and most people are like, fairies, Violet. The fairies tell us, what are you doing? You're supposed to be laughing, singing, dancing, playing, having fun. It's about enjoying the experience here, not the drudgery or all. And when you put yourself to have that ability to do that, we grow up and we become adults and we think, oh, we can't play anymore. That's not adult-like. Right.
Right, and so that's a great segue. Thank you so much. What I really want to also get across is your imagination. I get this question a lot. Is your imagination, is it in your head, or is it your intuition? And my answer is, why can't it be both? What if it is both? Having a strong imagination, that kid-like energy within yourself, and because when we were kids playing in the sandbox, we didn't care what Jason was doing or what you were doing. We were just having a good time in the sandbox, throwing sand at each other. Right? There was no expectations, just really enjoying that.
You were that kid
I was that
that
kid.
threw the sand.
No, I was the kid that got the sand thrown on.
Oh.
Were you the one throwing the sand?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. Personally.
Well, it's the same thing with daydreaming. For children,
Yeah.
we tell them to stop daydreaming.
Yeah.
And daydreaming is where imagination, creativity is also where we develop and strengthen our intuition because we can it's about visually seeing it, hearing it, smelling it, being in that. And so daydreaming is really powerful, and we cut that off for lots of people.
Yep.
So they stop practicing that skill set. It can be really powerful for us.
So, and again, here's where I don't know how it works for other people. It is a relationship with Source or God or Spirit. It's that connection with you that helps this process. Everybody's unique. I always like to refer back to the massage world. If you were trained by me, I train you a certain way. But if you two were in the class, you would learn the foundation, but you would do two different ways of body work. And the same is true, I think, for all of what we do, even in the intuitive world or the spiritual world. We're all very unique and connected to that source. So doing that, your imagination and that freedom, when I'm in the body with someone working, I laugh hysterically sometimes because they're showing me in like cartoon characters, they're showing me in a variety of ways. And I'm like going, why is Donald Duck there? Right? It's like, what? And the minions show up quite a bit when I'm working too. So they always show in relationship, but when I look back at that, that's Source's way to, one, keep it light, but also it's their way to help me understand when I'm working, they're actually working on something. And
Is that a sign of maturity level?
No.
No? Okay. 'Cause
Do you get that too?
I appreciate you addressing that, because cartoon characters are a thing in my world as well.
Yeah.
I don't usually tell people that.
Okay, so we have to block.
I always said I think like a cartoon character, which really has a lot of merit, especially as you get older.
Oh,
It's so much easier to deal with this place.
Yes. Yep.
Well, we're at a good point to take a little break here. We're going to announce some information about the store. Please stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Violet Rain, Master Teacher of the Akashic Records series of classes here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you've been interested in the Akashic Records are the life book or the etheric records of everything that we've ever thought, spoken, done, all of our contracts, relationships since we left Source. It is a valuable resource of information that people are able to tap into to get clarity, to get guidance, just to find out why things are the way they are in their life. The Akashic really helps us do that. This is a great series of classes if you're already getting intuitive information, meaning you're either getting visuals or you're hearing things or you just know things or you feel things. This is a great class to step into to amplify the information that you're receiving from a higher level of source versus just your intuition. If you'd like to find out more about my series of classes for the Akashic Records, please check out on our website under classes and look for Akashic Record Certification. I hope to see you in class, or I hope to see you at the center here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.
Well, thanks for joining us. We're here with Shane Sale, and we're going to continue discussions about all of his gifts. So I think this is a good time to kick off on how does it work for you to be a medical intuitive? How do you manifest that? Because everybody has different styles.
Dave, I don't know.
Okay.
It's been a great interview, Shane.
Great interview.
joining us
Join
today.
us next week.
Okay, so again, kind of kidding aside.
Really, who's vetting these guests? What is the deal here?
Let me clarify my statement.
We need a question in it.
I know where you're going with that, and here, but ultimately, what it is like I literally I don't know, but I can share with you the process of what occurs. So the process is one, I connect with Source and with God, whatever you want to call it. So I make that connection. I get this too oftentimes. When you're walking down the streets, do you just pick up stuff? I'm like, no, I'm a human. I'm having a human being experience. I choose not to be on all the time. So I connect. So connection is the first part. So once I connect, then I get your permission, whoever I'm working with, to a reading or healing. And then once that permission's been given, either auditory or on the soul level, I drop in through the top part of the head or the crown chakra, and then Source or Divine or whatever you want to call it leads me to where it wants to go. And this is what I love too. Is people will say, well, I've got my fingers really bothering me. Can you look at my finger? More times than not, they don't look at the finger. And I'm kind of going, why don't you look at the finger? Why don't you look at the finger? The finger's not the problem.
Okay.
So it goes to Source. So it goes to the source of what's going on. In this case, it went through the crown chakra, I went into her shoulder, and part of when Source works with me, if I can't see beyond a certain part, it's their way of saying, okay, we need more work here. And sometimes that's where the DNA work kicks into play. So I'm on the physical shoulder, I'm looking at this shoulder, and I can see the organ, I can see the structure of it, I can see all the tissues, I see it the way it looks. But then they'll kick me over to the belief side and they'll say, the shoulder represents this, look it up. So Louisa's Hay book is kind of a starting point for me. It's not the end point, but it's a starting point. It gives me an idea of what's going on. So I pull the book out, I look at it, I'll show my client, and they'll oftentimes laugh. They'll say, yeah. Or they'll tweak it, Source will tweak it a little bit and say, okay, it's not exactly this, it's this. So in this case, working on the shoulder, once we freed that up, and there was something else going on. She had a in this case, there's something else going on in her shoulder that she needed to bring back our attention to. Once that was done, Source was able to move through that, or I was able to see beyond that. Went into her forearm. They did a lot of work on the muscle tissue, and there's the interosseous membrane, some of the details of the shoulder. They were working on that quite a bit, and that was the session for the physical part of it. And she was like, "Huh, my finger does feel better." I said, "I know." In this specific case. So I don't know. So I don't know how that works. I just kind of know the process of what I do when I go into it and what I'm looking for, what I'm describing.
That helps. A lot of people get different images and different structures. When I do it, I put somebody on a pedestal and I start taking off layers. And as I take off each layer, I look for red areas to light up on what it is. And so it's kind of like that, those exhibits at the bodies, things that you go to where they've dissected people.
Yep.
I go through layers like that. And it's great. Sometimes I get confirmations where I found bone spurs, and people go and later get a diagnosis with an MRI and they find the bone spurs. It's like, cool, that's nice.
Yep.
But obviously many, many different styles on this.
I feel very exposed.
Going through your layers.
Layer by layer.
Only with permission.
Yes,
Only with permission. It only works with permission.
Well, you do healing work as you find the stuff, correct?
Yes. So the process I go in, we go in and we look at it, and what I notice when I'm working with Source is that they'll show me as it is now. So they'll light it up either, like I see the structure because of all my anatomy background. So they show me all the anatomy and what it looks like, and where sometimes I'll see red or discolorations. Sometimes it just shows differently. But then also I'll hear about an emotion or a belief or the genetic level. We need to clear it out of there. So they'll direct me where I'm going. But I certainly see a lot of a variety of things when I'm inside the body.
Mm-hmm.
Does a session take one time? Can it take multiple sessions? How does that work? Does it?
Violet, Jason, I am that good. One time, boom, done.
So you don't have any repeat business?
Nope.
Is what you're saying.
I think we're interviewing Pinocchio here, and we're having to stand back because that nose is getting longer.
Yeah, my goodness.
It's way easier to just handle it all.
Yeah, so it's quite the contrary. What I notice when I'm working with people, it does vary. It depends on where they're at. It's all about them. It's where they are in their journey and what they're willing to work with at this point in time. It's never about me. It's never about what Source is doing with them. They're just facilitating what's going on with inside your system and what you're ready for. And that could be, I literally, I was laughing. I did a demo, medical intuitive presentation at a facility, and this one gal, she said, can you just do a quick reading on me? I'm seeing the doctor tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, great. So I went in, and they were showing me your subclavian vein on the right side, and they were cleaning that out. I'm like, okay, cool. Literally 2 minutes. So I went in, boom, they cleared it out. I'm like, okay. It lasted about maybe 5 or 6 minutes. I get a card 3 weeks later. She went to her doctor, and her doctor had said, quote, "That is the cleanest vein I have seen at your age." And I still have the card. It was 2 minutes of work that I was observing and seeing what was happening. So in some cases it can happen instantaneously. But what I've noticed in my experience is that when someone comes in, it really depends on how many layers there are, because when you start working at this level, particularly at the genetic level and the DNA level, when you're clearing things out, more things can certainly be underneath that, and they'll bubble up. So I would say on average, I know one client I've seen her about 8 times now, 8 or 9 times. So it really does tend to kind of vary on where they're at and what they're willing to work through.
Well, layers and what the person can process through at a time, right? Because if you cleaned everything, you might put them in a healing crisis, because we're in a physical body. Mm-hmm. It's not spirit. It needs it needs a little more time to process through some things.
Yeah, because we're definitely, the healing's being occurred and done and completed, but they may not necessarily be energetically ready to step into that fully yet. So there's that processing time that takes place, and that's something I'm learning as I'm working with each individual. It can certainly. I'm learning a great deal from that.
It can very much vary.
Yeah, do you get energetic pushback for some people that, essentially, we'd love to help you, Shane, work on this healing. They're not ready for it because they haven't accomplished this, or they haven't seen this, they haven't learned this. There are some spiritual lessons here, those types of things. Do you run into those kinds of concerns?
Okay, so Dave, if I understand your question correctly, so if I'm working with someone and it's a life lesson they need to learn, will it say, for example, cancer? Can that be cleared? Can I clear it for them?
Well, if there are underlying spiritual or emotional reasons why they have the cancer, can you clear the cancer before they've worked on those issues to get them out of their life?
I love this question. No. To be direct, no. We heal at the level that they're able and willing to be healed at.
Okay.
And I say heal, meaning that Source is doing all the work. I'm simply the observer. What I will say, though, is that we can make some of those symptoms that they experience lessen, so they can maybe embrace more of what that lesson is teaching them or showing them. So working in the field and working in all of the levels of the body is where that kind of comes into play. And that understanding, seeing it from a victim standpoint versus seeing it from a spiritual standpoint, of going, oh, I understand why I have this, and really embracing it versus running or trying to fix it.
Well, you talked about belief systems. Sometimes it's a belief that they're holding.
Yes.
Sometimes it's various things. So I assume that you can share with them, this is a belief that I'm seeing.
Yes.
And does that resonate with you? Oh, yeah. And where did this root come from? Where did you pick this up? Is this yours or somebody else's?
I'm laughing because I call my mentor friends. I'm like, what is going on with my practice? Because I'm seeing a trend of, right now I'm seeing a trend of depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies. And I'm going, I am no psychotherapist.
I would just say, you too?
Okay, so I'm not alone. But I laugh because as I see this so I'm asking myself, okay, they're coming to me because I can help them. I have some way to help them. And I go, are you sure? But ultimately, I've seen many cases where they do get better at some point where they're able to.
Sounds good.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I get groupings of people. In a 2-week period, I'll see a trend. And I joke with people, I call it canaries in the coal mine, and I'll ask around and say, okay, what are we seeing energetically on the planet that now I'm suddenly seeing these people with this issue all showing up at the same time and knocking on my door. Yeah. So I also look for bigger symbols for what's going on planetary, that it's striking this group of people who are, I'll say, susceptible to those types of things.
I find that in geographical locations too.
Yeah.
With the work that I do, there'll be a concentration of a certain soul group or a certain set of issues that come along with that are different than in Chicago than they are in Boston, which I think is fascinating. And until I started traveling, I didn't really recognize that. But now it's kind of like, okay, what does that mean? Like you're saying, Dave, what is the greater consciousness that can be accessed and helped, assisted, and healed here that can help more people than just the one-on-one?
I think people are just so stressed and so full of anxiety these days. They're on this junky diet of getting it out of the internet, getting out of media and all this, and then walking around saying, this leads me to believe I should be in fear, and the stress levels are high, and it beats down your immune system and leaves you open to other things. And people have kind of lost, in a lot of cases, their capability to just be in balance emotionally about this stuff and to put it into perspective. And turn off the TV, turn off the radio, turn off the media stuff. Go play some video games and get out of these, quote, big issues that are around us right now.
Well, and you were replacing the battery with a new battery, and you made a comment. You said when the battery is pulled out, it has to reset.
Yes.
And go through all the pieces. I feel like we're definitely in a reset right now. From all of the inundation from the external sources, it's really important to reset ourselves. And to do that is to really tap in internally and to move away from so many of the distractions, or just be aware of them, that you are being distracted.
So every time I do that, I end up with just too many updates.
Too many updates.
Right, like too many apps need updating. It just takes forever. I got work to do. I'm kidding, of course. That's a powerful anecdote.
iOS 14 update, is that what's happening?
Be brave, be brave.
Right? So, yeah, well, it's interesting that we have patterns, right? That we're seeing patterns, right? You know, I think about suicides, how much more often we hear about them than we ever have. And so it makes you wonder, was it because nobody talked about them before? Or is there really an increase now? What's happening? You know, it's a real interesting question.
And as dark and heavy as some of those topics are that we see as healers, and actually, okay, thanks. What I want to remind folks too is to remind everybody that we do have that inner light within ourselves, and that light can shine as bright as we allow it to shine. And when we move through our world, we move through our stuff, and we process it and look at it spiritualistically, our light does become brighter, and those things that are heavy become less and less.
Yeah, definitely. And we impact other people, right? With our light, with our way of approaching things, or just being near somebody. Sometimes as a healer, you know, my stuff turns on and I'm like, somebody needs it. I don't know who, but somebody close obviously needs it, because the universe.
And the beautiful part is, and the other piece they're asking me to kind of mention here, is that in my work, like, I'm not a medical intuitive, I'm not a massage therapist, I'm not, this and this and this, the labels, as you said earlier. I guess I am one.
We're getting
label.
back to the questionnaire here.
I know, sorry.
Really, this is about medical intuitive.
Right. But I am all of those things. But it doesn't define me. What I mean by that is I know that I'm a healer, but I have different ways to help people heal.
Well, things have shifted. You know, 30, 40 years ago, you were either a tarot reader or a medium or energy healing. You stuck in your lane. You really didn't move out of the lane too much. And then today, we have lots of practitioners here in the center, and they want to put a label on who they are. And it's hard to do that anymore, because we all use a variety of tools, right, in our practice on what that person needs and what we're intuitively guided to use. It's not one big tool in the toolbox that you use by itself. There's a lot of stuff that we're using to help a client, you know, through whatever they're doing. So labels are really hard for us. But in spirit, they've never gotten into labels. No. We've always wanted to label, like, what's your name and who are you? And they're like, really? You know, so we're shifting. I mean, things are shifting labels are hard. I think as a human, we want a label, but it's not necessary.
So true.
Well, we're certainly genetically conditioned to labels and putting things in boxes, because it was a survival skill. And, you know, is that great big creature out there running around outside my cave? Is it dinner, or am I its dinner? I better learn real quick, and I better commit that to memory so I don't mess up in the future. And so you think back to junior high and high school, you form cliques. Who's the in group? Who's the out group? Why? Labels. And to the people who don't mature significantly after high school, they continue to apply labels to other groups.
Stop staring at me, Shane.
Well, I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm mature at this
So it's like that old Zen thing where the student shows up and the teacher starts pouring his tea, and the cup fills up and starts overflowing. The student goes, stop, and he goes, well, you're just like this teacup. If there's no room for any new information, I can't help you. It's just going to flow out. So one of those images. So in this stuff, you always have to remain open. There's new ways to do it. I look at some of the, I'll say, much older readers who've been doing the same style of readings for 40 years, and they sit in a cubicle at some metaphysical bookstore, and they're almost rooted to the chair, and it's their style and their dogmatic way of doing things. And it's like, you're going to date yourself right out of this business. People are going to quit coming to see you because you're doing a style that was popular in the 70s or 80s, and you haven't grown since then, you haven't adapted, you haven't looked at new metaphors or models, haven't looked at contacting new spiritual beings. It's a little tired. Yeah.
Well, even what you're doing specifically has evolved in 40 years.
Oh,
in some
my
shape
goodness.
or form, it has.
Yeah.
So you have to stay up with that, even if you're only committed to the one style.
Yeah.
It changes. The world has changed. It has to have shifted.
And what I appreciate you recognizing and seeing that, and going back to my massage world, I've always taken classes throughout the years, to maintain my membership, but also classes that interest me. That's no different in this line of work. I would hope that as I further develop more, although I will say, like, there's a lot of classes that don't really appeal to me at this point. So I really have to trust and go on what I'm called to learn and do. But I'm certainly open to growing and learning and seeing what else is out there.
But there's always something. I mean, I understand what you're saying. There's lots of classes out there that I'm like, okay, that's not for me. That's not where I'm guided. But there's always something out there that's like, ooh, that's something new. I'd like to experience that or learn more about that. And I've always said, if you're going to a teacher or a practitioner, it should be somebody that's elevating, advancing their skill set, their experience, their knowledge over time, and that are constantly expanding, because this world is constantly expanding and growing.
Well, yeah, and they say if you're not learning and growing, you're dead. Is that what they say? What's the?
I don't know. I keep expanding and growing. Yeah. It's just what I do. But
I have a classic picture of this old business-looking guy who's in his early 60s, and out of the top of his head has like a little tombstone, R.I.P., and it stands for retired in place. Oh. And it's I'm 64. I'll never be retired in place. I'll always keep moving.
I love it.
It's pretty awesome. So Shane, what types of classes do you offer? What types of services do you offer to people that might be interested in checking you out? What are some of the things that you do, or how can they find you?
Great.
Because I know you do several different things.
Right, and it's continuing to change and evolve. So I'm able to teach the DNA, RNA reconstruction work, so the genetic level, as a 4-day class. We teach people how to go into the system and clear beliefs at several levels. That's one of the techniques in the class, in addition to theta healing, etc. Another class that I'm teaching quite a bit is on developing your intuition. And this is kind of my baby, because this is my journey of where I became. So helping people understand they are intuitive, from the folks that say, my intuition's always wrong, to, I have intuition, and it's right. So helping them in that journey. That's what that class is about. And recently I developed a 4-hour theta healing class, kind of breaking up the medical intuitive piece and helping them understand in smaller sections of what theta healing is and how to focus your energy on certain parts of the body, etc. Based on, it's really catered to those individuals taking the class. So I gear it around them and what they need. So those are 3 top classes that I'm teaching in the medical intuition.
Very
3-day
cool.
class.
And then you have an office, a practice office.
I do, yeah. As much as I love this space here, and hopefully...
And we love having you here.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. But I do have my own space where I practice bodywork. I call it Intuitive Bodywork. It's on 1711 South Pearl Street here in Denver, not Boulder. Just want to clarify. So I'm in there on Pearl Street in Denver. And my website, my company's name is Inner Light Shines. My website is www.innerlightshines.com.
Very cool. And you also, every once in a while, go to some kind of fair, bazaar.
Every now and then, yeah.
Yeah, I see you out there. Is it done for the winter? Or
no, I'm afraid not. There are a couple more events are coming up. I'm doing one at It's the Small Business Saturday coming up on the 30th of November, and the host there is Shining Lotus Metaphysical Bookstore on Colorado and Yale, roughly. I'll be there all day doing 10-minute increments. I recommend 15-minute sessions for all day, till 10 to 6 that day.
Very cool.
That's the next one coming up. In January, once I get the calendar solidified a little bit more, there'll be a few more events coming up early next year.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you came out. I'm glad that you're part of our team here and that you teach classes and you come in and educate us occasionally.
Yeah, well, maybe need to learn more from folks like you guys. But again, my whole purpose, and when I made that list a long time ago, what was on that list was being of service to others. My mantra is to be of service to others. So how can I be of help? So wherever I'm guided to go, that's where I go.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us. Well, thank you to all the audience for listening today or in the downloads. That's great to have you with us. Our next guest is Melissa Fike, and please stay on to learn about some of our practitioners. We're going to have some short explanations about other people and what they do here. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
My name is Selena from Love Your Light. I knew I was special when I was a little girl. I used to walk around the house whenever family members were hurting or a sick pet, and I would put my hands on them to make them feel better. Obviously, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I just always had the drive, the interest to want to help people feel better. And I also, when I was a child, started knowing when people were sick and knowing when they were going to pass, knowing immediately babies, boys, girls, twins, other, and it just grew from there. My mom was also an intuitive, so was my grandma, so I was in that environment. It just developed and grew the older I got. I am blessed to have a number of gifts. I am an intuitive guide. I teach Reiki, and I'm a mentor. I help people discover their gifts and abilities. I do intuitive counseling. I do energy clearings, personal energy clearings, and space energy clearings. I basically just want to help people see their light and love their light. I am at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts on Thursdays. I'm here full day as a practitioner, so I have morning, afternoon, and evening appointments. I'm also a reader Thursdays.
I am Colleen Andraste. I am a spirit medium, psychic, and channel for the angelic realm, and I have been intuitive or psychic my entire life. I began my interest in this work as a young child. I saw my mother with my eyes open after she passed 2 different times, so my beliefs were confirmed, and that is what opened the doors for me. How I help clients today is that I'm primarily clairaudient, clairvoyant. I'm also an empath, so I tune into their energy through the vibration of their name, and spirit will talk to me about what messages they have for the client. It can range, it's wide ranges actually, but my primary goal is to empower my client and to bring them a sense of well-being and peace, and to know that they're always being cared for and they are not doing this alone. They're not walking the earth plane alone. I am available the 3rd Sunday of the month at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Hi, I'm Joyce Jarrell. I am a trance channel. I do individual readings, but what I really love to do is teach people how to channel. I've been teaching channeling for about 11 years. I kind of stumbled into the teaching part because I had a client who came to me who wanted to channel, and she said that the only way she could do it is if she was hypnotized because she was terrified. So I was channeling Archangel Metatron for her, and he turned the tables on her and had her start channeling for me. She was absolutely fantastic, one of the best people I've seen. When she was finished with it, she was in tears because it's the first time she'd been able to do it without being hypnotized first. her guides had asked me if I would start a class to help support her so that she would be comfortable channeling around other people. And so I said, okay, I would teach channeling. So I did a little research and gathered several people to attend the first class. We were all very excited. So I said that she was supposed to bring me to the teaching part of what I do. I enjoy it immensely. Everyone channels in my classes. I have never had anyone who is unable to, but anyone who came in with the intention and the desire always was able to channel. And it's a really fun class. I'll be teaching classes here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts beginning in March. I have 2 level 1 classes coming up and then a level 2 class. The level 1 class enables you to initially have those words come out of your mouth, but at that point you're not really able to attain that space and just start on your own. And so level 2 is further refining and practicing. They're all really fun classes. You get to listen to everyone else channel. You get to ask questions of the others who are there. So it's a really fun thing to do. You can find the details on the classes at the discoveryourspiritualgifts.com website. They also have a meetup, and I've also put all of my classes on Eventbrite.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.